Hi, everyone. We'll get started in just a moment, but for now, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat and share where you're joining us from. Awesome. It looks like we have people from all over the country, which is incredible. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. All right, for time purposes, we're going to go ahead and get started. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our quarterly Jewish Gun Violence Prevention Roundtable webinar, Equipping Adults with Support Youth-Led Gun Violence Prevention. We're so glad you're here with us tonight. So normally you would see my colleague, Rachel Graber, leading this discussion, but as a designated young person on staff, Rachel handed me over the reins tonight, so I will be moderating the conversation. Thanks so much, Rachel. So before we get started, just a few housekeeping notes. This webinar is being recorded and will be shared afterwards. Please drop any questions in the Q&A or the chat throughout, and we'll save time at the end to get as many as we can, but that's time permitting. Before we get started and introduce our brilliant youth advocates, I would like to invite Rabbi Jessica Jacobs from Temple Beth Shalom in Miami Beach, Florida, to offer a few opening words to ground us in this conversation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anna. Good evening, everyone. I'm really excited to be with you all tonight. So, Jewish tradition is deeply rooted in the idea of Lador Vador, from generation to generation, with the education of young people at the heart of our communal life. From the Ve'ahavta prayer, which we recite every day, which instructs us to teach these words diligently to our children, all the way to the youngest child asking the 4 questions at the Passover Seder, Judaism emphasizes passing down wisdom, values, and memory. We honor elders for their experience, and we honor parents and teachers for the care and guidance that they provide us. However, Jewish tradition also reminds us that wisdom does not flow only in one direction. In the Talmud, Rabbi Hanina teaches, I have learned much from my teachers, more from my colleagues, but from my students, more than from all of them. Our tradition recognizes that young people are not only recipients of wisdom, they are also our teachers. Their voices, experiences, and insights are essential, especially in a rapidly changing world. Often, youth see realities more clearly, name truths more urgently, and imagine possibilities that older generations might overlook. Tonight, we gather in that spirit to learn from our youth about how we, as adults, leaders, and institutions, can better support youth-led gun violence prevention. We're here not to teach, but to listen with open hearts and minds, and to understand how we can be stronger partners, to honor the very real fears that young people carry, and to stand beside them in creating change. My prayer for all of us is this: across faiths, cultures, and communities, that we work together to build a world where children, young people, everyone can learn instead of fear, where they can play instead of hide, and where every young person can grow up safe enough to imagine a better future. Amen.
Thank you so much, Rabbi, for grounding us in that perspective, and we really appreciate you setting the tone for the conversation. So, this conversation feels especially important right now. Young people have been at the forefront of gun violence prevention efforts across the country, not just raising awareness, but actively shaping solutions, supporting survivors of gun violence, and leading cultural change. Tonight's really about listening and learning directly from youth leaders about what their work looks like and how adults can show up. So, over the next hour, you can expect to hear from incredible youth leaders, learn what youth led gun violence prevention looks like on the ground, and walk away with a clear understanding of how to support this work in a meaningful, sustainable way. So, now I would love to have our speakers introduce themselves. If you could share your name, your organization, a little bit about your work, and one thing you're doing right now in this space that, is a little exciting to you. So, Clara, why don't you go ahead and start us off and then just go ahead and pass it on?
Yeah, I'd love to. Hi, my name is Clara. I live in Dunwoody, Georgia. I am co-chair of the Youth Council at Project Unloaded. And so basically, a big part of what we do is social media content aimed towards youth of, wait, can you hear me, by the way? Okay, good. Social media content aimed towards youth to inform them about the dangers of guns and owning. Um, and honestly, my time there is wrapping up right now as we come to the end of the year. I've been with them for 2 years, and it's been some of the best moments of my life. And I'm very emotional that it's ending, but I will be staying with them with their alumni networks. I'm really excited.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Clara. Emily, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, my name's Emily. I'm here from Oakland, California, and I'm part of Teens on Target, which is a violence prevention program here that focuses on specifically policy and advocating for youth while educating. Yeah, and something I'm excited for would be just ending high school and going to college. Yeah.
Awesome. And Marianne, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself as well?
Hi, there's two Mariannes. I wasn't sure if it was for me or the other, but since I'm unmuted, hi everybody. My name is Marianne Alvarado, from Oakland, California, and I'm the program manager for the Violence Prevention Youth Program, Teens on Target, that Emily is a youth leader for, and I'm excited to see our seniors, Emily being one of them, graduate, and can't wait to celebrate them and everything that they've done in our program these past 4 years.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think the other Marianne might be your another version logging on, but I'm not sure. If the other Marianne is there, you want to introduce yourself? I think it might be a little bit of a glitch. All right. Well, thank you so much. We're so happy to have you here tonight. And thank you so much for sharing a bit about yourselves. So I want to start the conversation by, grounding us in the lived experiences behind this work. Because for so many young people, gun violence prevention isn't just an issue that they care about, but it's something that shapes their daily lives. So Clara, you talked a little bit about Project Unloaded and how it focuses on giving people the space to challenge some of the narratives that they have grown up hearing. And a lot of your work is focused on centering education, storytelling, social media, and helping youth think critically about gun culture and safety. I think a lot of adults may not fully understand what it feels like to grow up in a world shaped by school shootings and lockdown drills and constant threats of violence. So, for adults who didn't grow up with that reality, can you describe what that experience has been like for young people going to school every day? How has that shaped your perspective on gun violence prevention work and the kinds of conversations that you are having in your own community?
That's a wonderful prompt. So I can definitely talk about my experience, which is kind of a unique experience that I've seen compared to like the other youth that I work with Project Unloaded. And that's because I live in the South. And so gun culture here is very strong. And that's how kind of I've grown up in a location where people around me in my neighborhood, their people's families all own guns and they all are like very strong about their beliefs around guns. And that also contributes to a strong amount of shooting incidents that occur where I like near where I live and where I live. And so that really changes the way that life is. And, a big part of life as a young person is going to school. And school shootings have really changed the way that young people, children go to school because we used to be able to go to school and it was a nice, fun, open place of learning. And now I've described it multiple times as when I walk into school, it feels like I'm walking into a mix between an airport and a prison. Because when you walk into my school, we are so privileged to have amazing technology of these scanners, exactly like the ones that you see on the airport, where you put your bag through them and it scans them for weapons. And some places aren't as blessed to have these resources as we are, and they are in danger. But it's a huge thing that we shouldn't have to deal with in schools. And we also shouldn't have to deal with the armed guards in our schools, the security guards that have been given weapons in order to protect us. Um, we're only allowed to enter through one entrance to school. It really feels like a prison now. It doesn't feel like school anymore, which is really just has changed the way I look at the world. And I think it has changed the way a lot of kids look at the world. Um, but these experiences of growing up in this area has really been what has pushed me to gun violence prevention work. And it's what really makes me wonder, like, what can the youth do? Because it seems right now that the adults aren't doing much, and so it might be up to us, which I really think is what's important is that the youth step up. I think, was there another part of the prompt?
Yeah, so how is, being exposed to that type of, being in school and, going through security and, having drills, how has that really shaped your perspective on the work in the community and the kinds of conversations that you're having directly? Has it, furthered your want and need to continue that work? Has that, shifted anything?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've had a lot of conversations about both the incidents that occur near my school and my work in my work like alone, because the youth, the people at my school, even they like my friends. I've had many conversations with my friends after the Appalachia High School shooting. Um, in the days following, my school was getting threats online, like saying, "You're at this high school, you're next." And so these people at my school were like in a rage about it. There were students that were trying to rally and they were complaining, what is going on? How can we finish this? And I mean, not finish this, sorry. How can we fix this? And that has really driven so many conversations among the youth. And that's given me the opportunity to kind of draw upon these experiences and give other young people like the idea of what it's like to live in a world where this is the reality. Hang on, I think I had a little question in the chat. What are the reasons for the armed guards? So there have been shootings near my school, as I mentioned before. After the shooting at Appalachia High School, which is about an hour away from my school, we were getting online threats of like kids, like pictures of kids like holding guns and threatening my school. And so that's when they started arming all the security guards and adding security guards to my school, and they all have guns now, which I personally don't think is a great idea to add more guns to the situation. But yeah, of course, I'm happy to answer your question.
Awesome. Thanks, Clara. Emily, is there anything that you would like to add as well about your perspective?
Um, I'm sorry, can you like re-ask the
Yeah,
question?
of course. So, a lot of adults may not fully understand what it's like to grow up in a world shaped by school shootings and lockdown drills and gun violence. For people who didn't grow up with that reality, can you describe a little bit about what your experience is like going to school?
Um, I think for me, growing up in Oakland, there is a lot of violence, and specifically, it's like such a normalized thing, especially in school systems. Like institutionally, everyone just thinks that it's like such a normal thing, and we get a lot of like threats. And I remember this one time we had a threat, and the teacher pretty much sent an email, and not the principal, like the the principal sent an email and basically said how it was false and that there isn't going to be a school shooting, so that we should be at school. But I think it still sets a lot of fear in the environment, even though it's so normalized. And yeah, it's the main thing. I think it just puts you in a fear. And yeah, I'm sorry, but
No,
that's what
that's
I
okay. Thank you so much. Thank you both for sharing a little bit about your experience. And I think what you're describing really highlights how deeply personal this issue is for many young people. And for some, gun violence shows up through, fear and anxiety of going to school every single day. And for others, it's experienced through, community loss and trauma. But no matter what that experience looks like, young people are navigating the realities that, many adults didn't have to grow up with. And, young people are still finding ways to organize and advocate and push for change. So Emily, Youth Alive approaches this work from another angle. So working directly with the communities that have been impacted by violence and supporting healing and intervention efforts, while also creating opportunities for young people to lead in their own individual community. So from your perspective, what's the most urgent lever right now when it comes to ending gun violence? Is it policy? Is it talking about changing the culture? Is it about, the community level and incorporating that? Or is it something else? Oh,
From my perspective, I definitely believe that gun violence starts with the individual. So I think it's about affecting the culture, especially in Oakland, like the culture is really, like I said, normalized. So I think it starts there, and it also goes into like oh my God, I can't say that word, but like habilitation, where like the solution, how we can't just let people out with it. We have to like have a solution. So I 100% think that it does start with like policy change, and it goes in specifically into why individuals feel the need to use these like forces. Um, as gun violence is constantly ignored, we focus more on like children and the youth so we can prevent it in the future. And I think that's the most important part, just setting the culture out there and like getting rid of the stigma behind fear of gun violence as one of the root causes we talk about is fear, like fear. So I think that's the main part of changing the culture. But of course, I do believe policy change should be like priority because it's, yeah, but thank you.
thanks, Emily. Marianne, you work with these students through Teens on Target. Is there anything in particular that you're noticing that, seems to be efficient when connecting with people in the community?
Well, something that I've noticed, so I've been with Youth Alive for almost 8 years now, and I have been with TNT the entire time. Um, I'm gonna kind of piggyback off of what Emily said, that I believe when we think of violence prevention, we want something that's right away, that can work tomorrow, that we can use today. But the way TNT approaches violence prevention is talking to the younger generation. We believe that if we can change the mind of a young person and how they're handling themselves when they are upset or when they are frustrated, or even when they have a disagreement amongst their friends or social circles, even how they're feeling towards their teachers or their coaches, if we can change their mind about how they are approaching the situation and how they are reacting to it rather than react to respond, that it can change the way they look at how they are dealing with tough times, right? Um, Part of our program is we do give them the space to talk about their experiences, how they're handling it, but something that our high school youth leaders like Emily, um, that they are also doing is advising them like, hey, you guys are going to want to deal with it this way. I get it because that's I've been there before, but let's talk about better ways to handle ourselves in these type of situations. So I do believe in the change of your mindset, the way that you're communicating, the way that you're responding to situations, is one of the root causes of the violence that we're seeing in our community. And the more I talk to youth, the more I talk to the younger generation, sixth, seventh, eighth graders, the more I can see that things are caught and things are taught. So the way they are responding, um, it's coming from somewhere, they're learning it or they're being taught that. So if we can shift the mindset of the younger generation to respond differently when they are feeling fear, when they are feeling frustrated or upset, then I believe that they will also be able to change the way they're responding to what's going on around them and in their community.
Great. Thank you so much, Emily and Marianne, for sharing a little bit about, um, you know, what things are happening and, ways that, we can make a difference. So this is kind of a question for everyone. And I think a lot of people in this space want to know what's going on within the young advocate movement. So what are people actually organizing and leading on the ground right now? What are some things that are going on at your organizations? Claire, do you want to go ahead and get started?
I'm so sorry. I was reading the chat and I was
And
like
that's
nodding along to that.
okay.
Sorry, can you repeat
Yeah,
that?
yeah. So what are some things that you're doing right now with Project Unloaded and leading on the ground right now? What are some things that you've been doing?
Yeah, so with Project Unloaded, we put a lot of our efforts into social media campaigns that are aimed towards the youth, right? So a big thing that we look for are like the trends that we can kind of latch onto and turn them into our our beliefs, like our strategy, the way that we want to inform the youth of true facts and true statistics that are aimed to either change their minds or enforce their beliefs about gun violence statistics, gun violence. And so we have many different campaigns, such as one of my favorites that I've worked on has been the Working On It campaign, which is kind of focused towards mental health and how we as youth can work on ourselves and we can work through issues in our life without owning a gun, which like is really important, is that we need to be able to handle issues in our lives without the threat of violence or owning a gun, because statistically it's true that having a gun in your house makes you more in danger of gun violence.
Anna, you're
Thanks.
muted.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Clara. So Emily, what are some things that you've worked on through Youth Alive that you would want to share with the older folks on the call right now?
A big part of Youth Alive is like, at least for me, understanding policy. So we actually went to Advocacy Day, like I believe like last year, like maybe this month. I'm not too sure when we went, but we went to Advocacy Day, which is basically like we go to the Capitol in Sacramento, and we talk to a bunch of legislation. We talk about passing legislations, and we talk about specific policies that we think should be passed, and we share our personal experiences. And I think that's the most important thing to me, is just like sharing, because I was with someone else who was supposed to be here today, but they're having some technical issues. And they shared about their experience, and they have experienced a lot of school shootings since they go to Skyline. And I don't know if you guys have heard about like the Skyline school shootings, but in Oakland, it's really common. And it's like one of the reasons that our graduations were actually moved to like indoors because of the environment that was happening. And I think for me, it's just like learning that we do have the voice and encouraging other students there, because a lot of the people there were kind of new to the policy change. And but hearing more about our experiences, I think definitely encourage them to think a little bit harder about what ways they can prevent it for us.
Thanks so much. And I think, Advocacy Day is a really great opportunity to, have students learn more about policy and what's going on in the government as well. So thank you so much for sharing that. Marianne, is there anything that you would like to add that you're working with the teens on right now?
Well, right now, it's the time of the year where it's like graduation season. So we are doing a lot of reflection, allowing them to reflect on the years, especially our seniors that have been with us for 4 years. Um, Something that I'm always like emphasizing when it comes to TNT is um, how we are a full circle program, I guess you can say. So something I was in the midst of typing in the chat is that we give the opportunity to young people in the Oakland community to be part of the change that they want to see. So that does speak a little bit into advocacy and using our voice. We do work really closely with our advocacy director, who is not on this call right now, but he does work with them to give them opportunities to speak at City Hall or to speak on certain bills that Youth Alive is supporting. We also do support survivors of victims that have been impacted directly with gun violence or violence in the community, and give them a platform to also use their voice and speak out on certain bills as well. But something about TNT that I'm always highlighting is that our middle schoolers that we are able to present our workshops to, they are able to be part of TNT if they come to one of our 3 high schools in Oakland, and they can be part of of this program and go back to their old middle school and go back into their old classrooms. And I think that's where we see prevention, is when I'm meeting someone at sixth grade who is constantly getting into fights, or has some challenges with social circles, and they come to high school and they participate in our program, and then I see the change in them start to happen, where they become leaders. They're kind of stepping into their leadership role now in the community, and they are able to go back and be like, hey, I was just in your position. I used to think that way, but let me tell you something that I've learned, in the years of being with TNT. So that's something that I'm constantly emphasizing. Like Emily said, use your voice. There's power in your story. Healed people heal other people. And I do believe that a lot of our students that have been participating all of high school see that, and they have been using their voice. They've been advocating. Like Emily said, we were at Advocacy Day at the state capitol. It was a couple months ago, and a student was supposed to join us tonight, but she talked about some of the safety concerns that she had being a student at Skyline.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and like you said, I think mentorship is so important. Making sure that, students have other students that they can talk to, and continuing that conversation regardless of age. We do have a question in the chat. Um, what areas are you focused on? Any focus on the South, such as Florida and Georgia, which I think Clara can maybe talk a little bit about. I've witnessed a lot of violence to our survivors, and some have been affected by violence through guns. She also works for a domestic abuse shelter. Their children are also victims of gun violence, because it is in the home. So, how can we get information out to such groups which have children of various ages? So, what does that conversation look like based on ages? Does anyone have anything that they would like to share? We can also come back to it at the end also. I know it's like a pretty prompt question, and I know we also need to, stay on schedule. Um, so one other thing that we wanted to touch upon during this conversation is, how can adults show up, and, work with youth? So because young people have been honest with us today, we have Emily and Clara and Marianne who works with Teens on Target, and they've seen, we've seen what this work costs them, and what they're navigating, and also the gaps. So now I want to shift to the part of the conversation where we're talking about the role of adults in all this. So what does it look like to show up in this movement in a way that's meaningful? So, I'm going to start off with a question about something I think a lot of youth struggle with, which is feeling heard from adults. Clara, so young people are constantly told that they're the future, but do you think that adults are actively creating space for youth to lead right now? And also, in that context, what does that look like when adults truly listen to young people and collaborate with them?
What an amazing question. So I do, yes, we as young people are constantly told that we are the future. We have to start stepping up. We have to do this, have to do that in order to be heard in the world. And what we end up facing in reality is a world of adults who do not want to listen to what we have to say yet. They're not ready to pass the reins over. They're not ready to let us say what's on our minds. And I think that the first step in adults supporting this movement of youth activism is to show us that you're listening, show us that you care what we're talking about. I have encountered far too many times. I explain what I do, how much this means, how much this activism work means for me, and it gets brushed off. It's a little project. How's your fun little project going? It's not taken seriously. Just like so many youth activists are not taken as seriously in the world by the adults that we need we need them to listen to us in order to get things done. So ideally, an adult listening and help an adult supporting us, an adult supporting the youth in our work to prevent gun violence is like, yes, listening to what we have to say, but also showing us that you're willing to help us. Show us, don't just tell us. You have to be able to prove to us that you care about what we care about and that you understand how much this work means to us. And I think that's really the biggest thing that I believe needs to be changed about how we go about speaking to adults and how adults go about listening to us.
Thanks so much, Clara. All right. Emily, do you feel like adults are actively creating space for youth right now? And what does that, also look like? And what ideally, how can adults help continue the work that the youth are doing?
I am thankful to have been in TNT, and everyone in TNT is either like alum, so they've been part of TNT and they have like their own experiences with it, or they have experienced some form of gun violence. So I think they come from a place of genuine understanding, but I do really resonate with Clara's like what she shared about how sometimes it feels like people don't really take it seriously because of our age, or how people tend to be supportive in the sense of they're like, oh, have fun with your little project, like they said. And I think that's an important part, is just like kind of what they said again, with just proving yourself in that sense. And I think that sharing their experiences or their issues, and not only just sharing their experiences, but also providing resources like grief support counseling and groups that have similar experiences to the people that are going through it, would be a good way to continue on with the advocacy changing. Yeah. But I'm also pretty sure Tori's in here. So if she has anything to add too, that'd be great.
Hi guys, my name is Torian. I've been in Teens on Target for all 4 years also. My connection was bad, but can you repeat the prompt?
Yeah, Tori, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit and, talk about your involvement with Teens on Target?
Oh yeah, my name is Torian, like I said. I've been in Teens on Target for 4 years, and some of my favorite things that we do is what they've been saying, like the presentations in middle schools, just seeing them, like Miss Marianne said, seeing them come to Teens on Target and genuinely learning and genuinely having questions about the stuff we teach about. Um, and just holding that space for them to talk is, yeah, really important to me. And about what Emily said earlier, Advocacy Day was really fun. Presenting bills to higher ups, or presenting policies to higher ups, to have them vote yes on them was really fun. And just like the work we do is genuinely fun and it impacts the community a lot.
Thank you so much. And Tori, and I know Emily spoke a little bit about, what it's like being in school right now and said that your experience was, a little bit unique in what you've experienced being in school and what's happening around you. Do you want to touch a little bit upon about what you've experienced and what it's like going to school every day?
Yeah, going to school every day. I've been at Skyline High School in Oakland for the past 4 years, and I can say that each year we've had a big shooting and a bunch of fights and like stabbings every year. So it's sad to say, but that's why in freshman year I did join a TNT to have a safe space to talk about these things and like get these things off my chest and stuff like that. But I think the violence on our school campus, it's not like people coming from the outside and like shooting up the school. It's actually the students like shooting at each other. So the solution probably would be more violence prevention programs and um yeah, just more violence prevention programs, more RJ circles, restorative justice circles if you guys are familiar with those. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience, Torian. I'm so sorry that that's what it looks like when you go to school, and that's got to be really, really difficult. So thank you so much for sharing your experience. Emily, Torian, do you want to talk a little bit about what RJ circles look like and what that is? Because I think we have a lot of folks in the call that might not be familiar with that. So I'd love for you to chat a little bit about what that is.
I can share about RJ circles. RJ circles stand for restorative justice, and it's basically a circle, and you have like the five elements in the middle, and you just go around and you talk about your feelings. Yeah, it's pretty simple, but it's really effective because I think I've been in a couple of them, and we just start talking about like how we feel about the situations, and it one allows you to connect with people that you don't even talk to, and it also just like it's a good environment to be in. It's kind of like a group setting. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, that sounds really nice. And I'm sure, talking to other students, there's a lot of things that you share and that you can talk about. So I'm sure that that's really wonderful. Thank you so much. So one other question that we have, this question is for anyone who, would feels feels like they want to answer it, but how do adults create environments where young people feel supported to show up without, burning out or feeling re-traumatized in the process? What does that look like?
I can go again if no one wants to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like I shared, I'm in TNT and they all have like experience with it. So I think that that's a really important part to have like making this work, I guess. Because it already has that environment where we all kind of have similar ideas on it. And I do agree that it's important to work with like other people of all different ideas. But I think having similar views on the issue definitely helps with wanting to do the issue. And I think enjoyment, like having genuine like hope for the future makes it also better. And like I said before, just providing the resources like grief support, counseling, and like just group in general, having people getting rid of the stigma and just like providing support that isn't always given, which TNT does a great job of doing. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Emily.
If I could just add
Yeah, go
to
ahead.
Oh, go
that.
ahead.
Oh, Tori, you can go ahead, hon, if you want to.
Tori, you want to go
No.
ahead and then Marianne, you can go after?
Mm,
Oh
Perfect.
yeah, I was just gonna add, Teens and Target does a really good job on just like holding that space in that environment where young people do feel safe and they do express their feelings and it's like a safe space. I would say with all the shootings that we had at my school, Teens on Target is there and it's holding safe circles and holding those circles where we could talk about our feelings and we could like be there and just talk about what happened. So I really do appreciate our violence prevention program for that. And um after each shooting there was still school the next day, even though like we tried to advocate to higher ups, but there was a lot of pushback on that. So yeah.
I was just going to add from an adult perspective or a mentor perspective. Um, I think you should just let young people be who they are. I think that's something that TNT, like, we really value. You all can come into our space. You can express yourselves how you want to express yourselves, of course, being respectful. But it's a no judgment zone at TNT wherever we go. So when we are sharing experiences or when our kids are sharing their experiences, us adults and staff in the room, we're sharing our experiences too. So we are talking together. We're not talking at them. We are we're kind of like, hey, we're here with you guys. You know what I'm saying? And I think just creating that type of a space where young people can come in and feel comfortable to be themselves and know that they won't be judged is really, really important. And it does speak into what Clara was saying earlier, listening, having great listening skills. I know there's some adults that I've even run into that speak to or listen to respond rather than listen to understand. And I'm huge on communication. And I really think that young people need to see what a good listener looks like. You can't tell them to be a good listener if we can't model that for them as well. And then going into providing them with resources, sometimes the resources is a meal. So at TNT, we're big on taking our kids out to eat after they do a presentation, or for example, when they spoke at Advocacy Day, making sure that they are fed while they are participating in our program is huge. Sometimes a lot of our kids are not getting meals, you know what I mean? And that's why they can't focus in school. That's why their attitude is the way it is. Maybe it's just something as simple as food or helping their families as well. I've had students who their mind is focused on what's going on at home, therefore they can't focus at school. I insert myself to be like, hey, how can I help you at home? Let me talk to mom, or let me talk to whoever's at home. Do you guys need groceries? Do you all need necessities for your home? Do you need help moving? So sometimes resources is it is connecting them to the right people to speak to, counselors, case managers, restorative justice members in the community. But sometimes it's just taking that load off of their mind of what am I going to eat tonight? What is my family going to eat tonight? And saying, hey, I got you. Let's go to the grocery store real quick. Let me make sure you're good. So that way they can focus on what they need to. So resources is very broad, but something at TNT that we emphasize, and we're constantly telling our kids, if you need a ride, if you need a Clipper card, if you need a meal, if you need necessities, let us know. We're here, and it doesn't have to, you don't have to think about where it's going to come from. That's why we're here. So mentorship, an effective mentorship system is really important as adults.
That environment, like that kind of support system is so incredible, but it's like so terribly rare. Like that kind of thing is something that I feel like not a lot of people have the privilege of experiencing. And I feel like this definitely needs to be like expanded, and that's the main thing that adults need to know is that we don't want to be asked what's wrong. We want to be asked, how can we help? Like you said, Marianne. And I think that that's one of the best ways is to create a space that youth will feel comfortable speaking about their experiences, about their thoughts, about their emotions, not where they're kind of repressed or shut down immediately. I just want to add that.
I did see a question in the chat about the stigma. I did speak on that, so I think targeted with me. In Oakland, there's like, it's really normalized. Like gun violence is such a normal thing. And I think that's just what I meant, like how getting rid of the normalization of gun violence is a really important thing. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for sharing and, speaking about your perceptions and, resources and how, helping youth looks different in various different ways. And like Clara said, it's like not asking what's wrong, but how can I understand? How can I support? So thank you so much for sharing. So I think one thing, everything that we've heard today points to one thing that this work asks a lot of young people. It asks a lot of them. So it asks to share their pain, navigate systems that have let them down, and lead a movement while also still growing up. So I want to end this question section by something forward-looking, and I would love to hear from everyone. So what would it actually look like for an adult in this room to leave the conversation tonight and do something different within this movement? So one concrete thing that genuinely creates more space for young people in this work. And we can just, whatever, we can go around, whoever wants to chime in, please feel free.
I feel like encouragement. I feel like in a lot of places where y'all live, definitely where I live, there are young people in your areas that want to do something. They have an idea, they have a feeling that something is wrong and that they could do something to fix it, but they have no one encouraging them. They have no one to tell them that this is possible and you have the power to change something. And I feel like that is the main thing that you can do, anyone can do right now, is you can find a young person that has an idea, has a thought, has an emotion, and wants to do something with it, and you help them. You tell them that it's possible. You tell them that you will help them, and we don't take it over, and you stand by them and you help them. And I feel like that's really, really good support to have.
For me, I think that just opening like the floor for students to have these events and also encouraging them to share their opinions and encouragement, but encouraging them to share their opinions and like respecting it as well. And I think a really important one would also just be like having a conversation and not making it like, oh, I'm talking to you. Because how Marianne said, that's a really important part to me about TNC is that it doesn't feel like I'm being spoken to. It feels like I'm being asked and I'm being encouraged to speak out against what I feel. So yeah, just uplifting voices, I think.
Encouragement. Go ahead, Torian.
Tori, your connection is bad, hun. You're kind of going in and out. If you want to type it in the chat, that would be, probably helpful, but you're going in and out. Okay. Sorry.
Sorry.
I guess I can go while she's typing in the chat. Tori, I hope you're typing in the chat, okay? I think something that you can do tomorrow is, like everyone said in here, is creating that space for them. So, for example, if you have access to like a classroom of kids or there's a program that you attend, just have a conversation with them. I don't think it needs to be formal. I think it can just start off with, hey, what does safety mean to you guys? What does it feel like? What does it look like? What does it sound like when you're safe? What does it feel like and sound like when you're safe at school? Why do you feel safe in these classrooms at school? What is it about certain spaces that make you feel safe? Allowing them to reflect on, what does safety feel like to me at school, in my community? In our program, we talk about at home as well. But giving them the space to be like, hey, safety means that adults are listening to us, and not just listening, but taking what we're saying and allowing us to visualize action behind that. So something that we did, this is just an example, when there was a shooting at Skyline at Torrey School, TNT made sure to go check in with our kids because we knew they were forced to come back to school that same week. And we opened the space and said, hey, how are you guys feeling? What do you guys need from us? And then what do you guys need from the school to feel safe to come back to school? And they just talked to us. They expressed themselves, how they wanted to. They said how they felt about some of the decisions or how the process, how their school is handling it. What do they agree with? What do they not agree with? Do you all think that building fences are safer? A lot of them said no. They told us the reason why. I said, okay, well, if these are the decisions that are being made right now, what other solutions do you guys have? Some of them did research on how much metal detectors would cost. Some of them did research on how much are we spending on these fences that are not actually protecting us, and what could that money be used for. So but young people don't understand who they need to talk to push ideas to. So like Clara said, someone could have an idea and that's great, but if you're not showing them, hey, share this idea with me, then guess what? We're going to write a letter. We're going to make sure it gets to this level. And then when that level they read your letter, we're going to make sure your letter goes higher than that. And then eventually to the school board or whoever we need to talk to in the school district, we're going to try to push this idea to the right person so it lands on the right desk and in the right room, and that the right ears are hearing this idea. You can help them with research. So that's another thing. Oh, you guys think that's a good idea? Let's research how much that would actually cost. How many of those do you think you need? Now, so the research part is really important because a lot of young people don't know where to start either. So it could just start with just a discussion, asking them what their ideas are, and then saying, hey, okay, let's take that idea and let's see what other research we can do. So that planning process, that organization process is part of advocacy, because as we know, bills and policies can't get passed just by telling one person. It needs to go on different desks, right? You need to have a meeting on different days. It's a whole process that young people aren't aware of. And some adults aren't aware of it. I'll admit, I don't know that exact process, but I do know the right people to talk to, I believe, to get something on someone's table, to have an idea be heard. And I think if adults just use who they're connected to, use your resources, outreach to who the schools are partnering with, who are your partners at your organizations, you can help support the young people. Like Claire said, don't just listen to them, give them the steps, show them what it looks like to be an advocate. You got to model it too. You can't tell them just what to do. I always say, don't do what I say, do what I do. So if you're not seeing me do that, I can't, it's hard for me just to tell you to do it as well. So modeling that, teaching them, taking them through that process so they can learn throughout the whole way how to be an advocate, what it takes to move bills and policies, what it takes to create safety and what that looks like. So also adults, I mean, you got to want to be in this work. I know a lot of people that take jobs or positions because they just need it at the time. But to work with young people, to work with kids, to help encourage them, you also have to be in that mindset too. It's not working with young people is not just a part-time job. And I say this to a lot of people. This is not just a part-time job. Your heart has to be in the right place too, and your head has to be in the right place to give them that support. Otherwise, you're just another adult that is just listening and can't show them how to act on it. So I think that's really important for any adult that wants to help a young person or young people um, be advocates, be leaders, learn how to be in leadership roles. You have to also show them that you can do it too and that they can follow you. Sorry, I'm rambling. I get really passionate about youth development, but I hear what all of y'all are saying. So
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we love your rambling, and your words of encouragement and the things that you're saying about working with youth. And thank you so much for that perspective. And thank you to Emily and Clara, who talks a little bit about encouragement. And I also want to read out what Torian said in the chat as well, and said more funding for violence prevention programs and building stricter policies to keep our youth safe. So that is what they added as well. So perfect. Thank you so much for, sharing your knowledge and your experiences, and also, giving the adults who are here for the conversation today something to do when they leave this call. So I want to go ahead into the Q&A portion of the call. We have 7 minutes or 6 minutes to get through a few questions. So I'm just going to ask some questions that are in the chat. Nope, if you don't have you know, any sort of feedback on those questions, no biggie. We can just move to the next one. So, whatever you're comfortable answering. So, the first one is about youth programming. So, do folks talk to kids in groups or as individuals when there are conflicts brewing? Also, is that or something you are comfortable doing? So, talking to youth if there is conflict. And then they said it seems like a big responsibility. So, what does those conversations look like when you're talking to youth about programming and specifics around gun violence prevention?
so I'm trying to see if I can read the question that you're asking as well. But is the question just around how
Yeah,
we design, I guess, or like our program design, I
yeah,
guess?
yeah, yeah.
Um, so what TNT does, we how we introduce it to young people, I'll say. Let's say like there's a class of freshmen or something, they're looking to get into something after school. We say, well, do you all believe that there's a lot going on in our community? There's a lot of violence in our community. Normally they'll say yes. Said, well, would you be part of the solution if you had an opportunity? A lot of them will say yes. Um, And then we said, well, hey, what are you guys doing after school? We invite them to come to our program and just check us out. And we let them know, hey, we do talk about what's going on in the community. Raise your hand if you think there's a lot of messed up stuff going on social media. Oh, a lot of them will have a lot to say about social media, right? And we said, well, come to TNT on whatever days we're there at their school site, and let's talk about it. Our program, we are a violence prevention program, but we really just cultivate a space for you guys to feel safe enough to tell us what's going on your social medias. Let us know what you guys are seeing in the community. And then let's talk about some things that you want to see changed at your school or in the community so that you guys feel a little bit more comfortable walking to school, being at school. They'll come. We always have food. We always have pizza for them and snacks, and they'll never leave hungry. But when they're there, we have check-in questions. Check-in question could be, hey, what do you guys think the root cause of violence is in Oakland? A lot of them will have different answers. They will share their experiences, but we'll also go deeper. So if someone says like, oh, I just think it's gun violence or something, we keep the conversation going. And then other students will chime in and be like, well, I think it's this. Well, I think um, I think there's just a lot of kids that don't know how to communicate on social media. That's something that has come up a lot. Um, but when we introduce a program to new students or when we're talking about program, it is an opportunity for you all to be part of a group that also want to see change in the community. And I think it helps that not only do we feed them, but we're a stipend program. So we pay all of our young leaders and all of our high school leaders to be in our program. So if Emily and Tori do a middle school presentation, that goes on their paycheck. If they go to the state capitol and they do advocacy day and it's 2 days, they'll get paid for both of those days. If they are asked to speak on a panel, they will get paid for all of their participation. And I think that's a great incentive because Oakland, I mean, I think it's safe to say because we all know, but we live in a very impoverished area. There's not a lot of resources in the area. So when you are offering young people to make their own money, have some financial stability or at least get started on it, and you can do this by just talking to us about your experiences. I mean, it sounds like an easy job. You know what? I get paid and fed just to talk about the things that I'm seeing on social media. I'll be there twice a week. And then they go, well, how else can I, participate in this? Well, there's middle school workshops. So we don't just throw it on them all at once, but I think we reel them in with food, and that is a stipend program. And hey, this is a safe space. Come talk to us. We want to know where you guys' minds are at about what's going on in the community. And we're here to listen to y'all and offer you guys a position to be part of the solution.
Great. Thank you so much, Marianne. One other thing before we end, I know we have a lot of folks on this call who, you know, are passionate about gun violence prevention, but aren't super active working with youth or, they're not in those spaces. So what is something someone can do, just who isn't involved in working with youth or as involved in the movement, just supporting, the youth movement? What does that look like and how can they support?
I'm sorry, I was kind of in and out of that question. How can you all support? That's what I'm understanding. So I did drop our website, our Youth Alive website in the chat, as well as my email if you want to have a conversation or you have more questions or you're just interested in learning more about TNT. Please, yes, please hit me up. But how you all can support, I think I saw a question here about donations. We do accept donations, but I want to encourage you all to learn more about Youth Alive as a whole organization, because right now you all are hearing about one part of Youth Alive, which is the prevention portion or the prevention program of it. Youth Alive does offer intervention and healing as well. So we do have case managers, we do have Violence interrupters, which we call our street team. They are in the community and in the schools, mediating and breaking up conflict. But we also have counselors and healing circles for mothers who have lost their children and who are directly impacted in that way by gun violence. So um, please I'm encouraging y'all to just read up on our organization, but you will find on our website ways to donate. How can you learn more about us? We do offer something called like an office tour, where it could be virtual, I believe, or in person, where we invite you all to come down to our Youth Alive office, and you can invite as many friends as you want to learn more about our organization. And this is another opportunity where we bring some of our high school kids, and you can hear directly from us, and we can meet you all in person. That is one way to support us and to learn more about us. But that is, I'll say that's one way. That's a big way to support us, is to come learn about us and then share it with someone else who might want to learn more about us. Help spreading the word is huge. It's huge for us.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Clara, I know Project Unloaded also has, programs and research. Is there anything in particular that you encourage folks on this call to read about, or, dive a little bit deeper into the work that Project Unloaded is doing as well?
Yeah, so Project Unloaded, we're based in Chicago, but we have many youth advocates all over the country, including myself in Georgia. Um, And so there are lots of in-person programs are run by our lovely ladies at Project Unloaded in Chicago, where there's like after-school programs with the youth in Chicago, which have done wonders and have done amazing, and we love them so much. We've also introduced many toolkits, which our Project Unloaded Youth Council have introduced to our various schools, which have basically created just events at people's schools, colleges, to kind of spread the word, like Marianne said, which I was going to be like, yes, heavy on the spreading the word to as many people as you can. That you have a chance if you spread the word to as many people as you can. There's a chance that someone cares about it as much as you do, or will care about it as much as you do, and that's really the goal here. We also have lots of published research. One that we just finished has been, or not just finished, sorry. One that I participated in last year was the Guns on TV research paper, which entitled us to watch a lot of TV. But we really did research on how gun violence is portrayed in television shows and on movies, and how that is affecting the children of the world today. And it's been wonderful.
Can I just add something? Because
Yeah, go ahead.
Project Unloaded is a great partner of ours at Youth Alive. And if y'all just go on their Instagram page and share and like and share and comment, algorithms have so much power nowadays. You need to just share some of their content. Their content is amazing. And I love that you all are using media for positive and for creating like this huge awareness. And the way you guys are doing it, y'all gotta check them out. It's really creative, and we love Project Unloaded over here. So
Well, that's incredible. I'm so happy that you both, work closely together and admire the work that you are individually doing and doing together as well. So thank you so much. Thank you, Emily, Clara, and Torian, for sharing your experiences as, a youth advocate and a leader in the community. And, we're all so grateful for the work that you're doing. And thank you, Marianne, for sharing your experience, working with youth day to day and what mentorship looks like and how important it is to have adults just listen and encourage and be there, whether that's different resources from a bunch of different areas, whether that's providing food or just asking a young person, like, how can I help? Is there anything I can do? And giving them that space. So as we wrap up, I just want to highlight a few takeaways from today. So first off, we all know that youth-led work is already so impactful. And our role as adults is not to lead it, but to support it in ways that are encouraging, like Clara, Emily, and Torian said, as well as being respectful. Second, support means listening and understanding and showing up consistently and willing to take a step back if needed. And then finally, meaningful partnership is built on trust. So trusting, youth and adults and building that community of people that trust each other. So thank you so much again to our incredible speakers, Emily, Torian, and Marianne from Youth Alive, and Clara from Project Unloaded. And also thank you to Rabbi Jacobs from grounding us from the start. And thank you to everyone who is here today for being here and asking questions and being engaging in this conversation. So in the coming days, I'll follow up with some resources, which I'll make sure to incorporate Marianne, Emily, and Torian's resources that they spoke about from Youth Alive and Claire's as well from Project Unloaded. So thank you so much again, and have a great rest of your evening, everyone. Thank you.